everyone from Ukraine. You are watching Channel 24. My name is Andriy Drozda, and in the next few minutes we will make a precise and detailed overview of the front lines in Ukraine. We will observe what is exactly happening on the eastern battlefields in Donetsk and Luhansk regions, and what is happening on the south of Ukraine near Kherson. So let's go to the map. Let us start from the eastern part of front, from this section near Kupiansk, Svatovo and Kremina towns. Well, actually, the most intense combats continues a little bit to the south near Bakhmut and Vuhledar. But here in Svatovo, the situation is also very, very interesting. And due to the Ukrainian general staff, the Russian army lost more than 700 personnel units, soldiers and officers during the last day only. They also lost 15 tanks and more than 20 armored vehicles on all directions, actually, and this data tells us about the intensity of fightings near Bakhmut, near Vuhledar, and near Svatovo and Kremina. So we also have data from the Ukrainian Forbes magazine about the monthly summary of Russian losses and casualties starting from March, actually, and we can take a look on this picture, on this data. So we can see that starting from March, during the first month of full-scale war, Russians lost more than 15,000 men. In the summertime, they were losing on average 5,000 men monthly, and now the level of casualties almost tripled again. The reasons are poor training of drafted newbies who were thrown to the battlefield in October. These soldiers are simply not prepared for the intense hostilities. So let's go back to the map. We can see a sustainable front line from Svatovo here, like here, and to the south, to the Kremina town. So this both towns are situated on the western outskirts of Luhansk region, and it has been in this configuration, this front line has been in this configuration for 1 month already. So after the Russian retreat from Liman here and Izum here, first it was Izum and then Liman. From these two successful, after these two successful offensive operations by Ukrainians, Russians retreated to the south, to the Luhansk region, and after that they were able to create a new defense line here from Svatovo to Kremina, and now they are trying very hard to keep it. Yesterday, actually, Ukrainians had some success near Svatovo. We can see the group of Russian posts, prisoners of war, captured in these directions. Most of those guys were drafted in October in Moscow region, and let's take a look on this video.
Ходите на эту войну, это не ваша война, и это вообще не война. Командование бросает.
Мы военнослужащие, командира бросили, бросили на убой. По 3 суток не ели, не пили, жили в окопах, в мокрых.
Никакой информации, телефоны, все связь с семьей вообще отсутствует.
So these guys look pretty miserable, complaining about the lack of ammunition, non-professionalism of their officers, the lack of food, water, and other supplies, and that's the very widespread complaints we can hear from Russian posts. So near Kremina and Svatovo, all the fightings, all the combats are happening from the north to the south, and the aim is to control the road that goes from Svatovo to Kremina. Ukrainians are trying to push forward to the eastern direction and to control this road. On some parts of this front line, they're pretty close to accomplish this aim, but Russians are actively defending their line, their defense line. And near Kremlin now they had some limited success near Dibrova or Chervona Dibrova, Red Dibrova village. We can see the changes from the previous day. Now we can, here on the deep state map, we can just use a timeline and to turn time back to the 6th of November, 7th of November, and right now we can see that Russians were able to move a little bit to the west, to the southern west, here in Dibrova and Kuzmine. But that's the tactics that Russians use just to keep their positions safe in Kreminna and Svatove, so they have to throw a big amounts of drafted new buys just to keep those towns safe, and the cost of it are casualties, a high level of casualties and injuries that this drafted, non-prepared military men receive here in such kind of hostilities. So right now we're moving a little bit to the south, to Bilogorivka and Lysychansk. No changes here if we compare with the previous day. So the most intense fightings are happening right here near Soledar and Bakhmut. Very intense artillery shelling. Both towns actually, Soledar and Bakhmut, are suffering and strongly damaged by this artillery. Residential areas, administration buildings are ruined, and even local cemeteries suffer a lot. We can see the picture of local cemetery shelled by Russian artillery. So here we can see the result of Russian artillery shelling in the cemetery near Bakhmut. That's how it looks. Yeah, terrible face of war. And now we move to the south, to Vuhledar, and it is a very important point on the map. Right here, Russians are trying to attack the town, and they were preparing for a massive offensive operation, but it actually failed and turned into disaster. They had lost here about 300 men only in one brigade, in 155th Brigade, Marine Brigade, and its soldiers were complaining officially, publicly about its poor commandment, about the failure in planning of operation, and they said that they had lost some 300 men only in 4 days, and other units of Russian army are also involved here. So we don't know about the exact amount of Russian casualties only here in Vuhledar, but we can assume that it is very high, very big amount of the losses they received here. And now we can see how these battles proceeded. Actually, Russians tried to use tanks and armored vehicles in the fields near Pavlivka village, not far from Vuhledar, and they were covered, shelled by Ukrainian artillery, and the result of that was a high level of Russian casualties there. So they had to retreat from Pavlivka on the previous positions to the south. And right now, we don't know exactly what is happening in Pavlivka, but Ukrainians were able to defend this village to the south of Vuhledar. What we can say about Kherson, actually, in the end of our episode, we moved to Kherson. Nothing significant happened during the last week, actually, on the front lines. It is kept as it was for weeks, actually. It looks like Ukrainians are preparing for a massive offensive operation, gathering all the resources they can on these directions, and Russians are preparing, of course, to defend their lines, their positions near Snihorivka, in Bereslav region here in the north, and not far from Kherson. They keep their defensive line near Pravdina, Soldatsky, and Tarnove Pody, and other villages. But they are using also drafted new buys here in a big amount, actually. So the regular units of Russian army retreated mostly from the right bank of the Kherson. And they were like sustained by new buys, by drafted military men. So actually, we can see no changes on the map this week in Kherson regions, and we will wait for more news from this direction to share it with you. This is all for today. Please share our video if you liked it, and thank you for watching. Actually, I hope to see you soon on our channel.